to Classy and Sassy. This week has had me thinking about how life has a way of slowing you down whether you ask for it or not. I'm not talking dramatic, everything is falling apart kind of way. Just in those moments where you realize your energy may be different, your focus, and your priorities may have quietly shifted a little bit. When that happens, it ends up changing how you see everything. Your routine, your relationships, even the things you watch for fun. I think that's how I ended up giving up Atlanta Housewives once upon a time. But anyway, once your perspective shifts, entertainment starts looking less like an escape and more like a mirror. And one of the things that I've been watching play out in my reality TV world lately is Love is Blind. Now, instead of revisiting the whole debate we talked about last time, let's talk about what's actually happening right now. The breakups we're seeing and what they might be telling us about the weddings coming up. Now, keep in mind, if you are not caught up with the latest episodes, you may want to pause the podcast and come back later. Because one of these couples has already completely just imploded. Once the couples leave the pod bubble, reality always starts doing its job. Chris and Jessica, officially done, with Chris saying he just wasn't physically attracted to her. Even though we all know his main thing was he wanted to go back now that he had seen both women and see if he could pursue his other connection, despite the fact that she's engaged to someone else. But this is also a reminder that emotional connections don't always override physical preferences in real life for people. Speaking of his other connection, Connor and Bree also appear to be heading towards a breakup in the latest episodes. And even though he seems somewhat blindsided, the viewers have felt for some time that he was way more into her than she was into him. Alex and Ashley are still together, but with all the red flags popping up about honesty, about the things he told her regarding his life, I don't see that ending in marriage, at least not a long-term one. Devontae and Brittany, don't see that either. He's already made it very clear he's not attracted to her. Actually, what he said was he's not into women of color. And everyone has their preference. But I'm not sure Devontae has looked in a mirror lately. Because not really sure what he thinks his background is, but I digress. If he's saying this now, this is not a foundation they can build on anyways. Not to mention, he's been treating her like crap most of the season. Mike and Emma, they seem like genuinely kind people, but their differences about wanting family and when it's fundamental. Because he really wants children, and despite what she's saying, she really doesn't. And he's right. She could end up really having some feelings towards him for feeling like she was pushed into something she didn't want to do. Now, Jordan and Amber, they could have a shot, but they would first have to learn how to communicate through conflict instead of just going silent. And the couple who quietly seems the most stable, Vic and Christine, you know, the ones we've barely seen, the couple that stays out of the chaos and may actually be the only ones with a real chance. Because sometimes the strongest connections aren't the loudest. They're the most grounded. And honestly, watching all of this play out isn't just entertaining. It's relatable. Because most of us have experienced loving someone in theory and then meeting the reality of who they actually were in real life. Or as I used to say, you stop meeting their representative and you meet them. Compatibility matters. Timing matters. Having someone who is emotionally ready, it matters. Liking someone doesn't mean building a life with them and that it will just automatically make sense. You need more. Which brings me to something that's been on my mind lately that has nothing to do with reality TV. There's so much pressure in adulthood to always have it together, even when life is chaotic, when you're tired, even when you're emotionally stretched to your limits. There's this expectation that you still show up, you respond, you function, no matter what is happening. And sometimes that pressure keeps us from admitting we need rest. We need a reset. Not a vacation rest, not something dramatic, just maybe a little space. Because we're trying to get back to normal after some stressful season. But what if there's no normal to go back to? Because sometimes life changes your rhythm. And instead of returning to who we were before something happened, you move forward with a different perspective, different priorities, boundaries, and pace. That's not a setback, it's growth. I've been thinking about the difference between rebuilding productivity and rebuilding your energy. Most of us try to jump right back into doing. But sometimes what we really need is to just feel grounded first. Productivity without energy just leads to burnout. And a lot of the growth we experience isn't loud. Sometimes growth looks like letting something go quietly or adjusting your expectations, choosing peace over proving a point. That kind of growth doesn't always get noticed, but you feel it. And honestly, these kinds of reflections are part of why I've actually been thinking about expanding some of my conversations regarding books beyond fiction. As much as I love our fiction book club, because fiction gives us escape, I've been seriously considering starting a second virtual club focused on nonfiction. Fiction needs imagination. Nonfiction feeds evolution. You know, a space where we can talk mindset, relationships, personal growth, and navigating real life with intention. So if that sounds like something you'd been interested in, definitely let me know. Because just like the fiction book club, it will be virtual, your speed, your timeline. One of the biggest lessons lately, whether from life or from reality shows like Love is Blind, you can pull this. Connection is easy. Alignment takes intention. And long-term peace often comes from choosing what fits your life, not just what feels good in the moment. So if you enjoy conversations that go deeper than what we can always fit into an episode, make sure you have signed up for my newsletter. That's where I share reflections, book updates, behind-the-scenes thoughts, what I'm building, things like the Nonfiction Book Club. I'll put the link to sign up in the show notes. And as always, thanks for being here.